Military update news: why no one wants to mess with Israel's Air Force. Israel's current aerospace strategy depends on the health of its relationship with the United States. This is true both in terms of the availability of platforms and in ongoing mutual technological development. Fortunately for Israel, there is little reason to believe that this aspect of the U.S.-Israel alliance will decay anytime soon. Concern over the security of the F-22 stopped export of the Raptor, but didn't dent the overall relationship. Since the 1960s, the air arm of the Israel Defense Forces, colloquially the IDF, has played a central role in the country's defense. The ability of the Israeli Air Force to secure the battlefield and the civilian population from enemy air attack has enabled the IDF to fight at a huge advantage. At the same time, the IDF has demonstrated strategic reach, attacking critical targets at considerable distance. The dominance of the IDF has come about through effective training, the weakness of its foes, and a flexible approach to design and procurement. Over the years, the Israelis have tried various strategies for filling their air force with fighters, including buying from France, buying from the United States, and building the planes themselves. They seem to have settled on a combination of the last two, with great effect. Israel's early technological base. In its early years, Israel took what weapons it could from what buyers it could find. This meant that the IDF often operated with equipment of a variety of vintages, mostly secured from European producers. By the late 1950s, however, Israel had secured arms transfer relationships with several countries, most notably the United Kingdom and France. The relationship with France eventually blossomed, resulting in the transfer of high-technology military equipment, including Mirage fighters, and also significant technical assistance for Israel's nuclear program. These Mirage fighters formed the core of the IDF in the 1967 Six-Day War, in which Israel largely destroyed its neighbors' air forces in the first hours of the conflict. In 1967, however, France imposed an arms embargo on Israel, which left Tel Aviv in a quandary. The IDF needed more fighters, and also sought capabilities that the Mirage could not provide, including medium-range ground strike. Under these conditions, the Israelis adopted the time-honored strategy of simply stealing what they needed. To complement their existing airframes, the Israelis acquired technical blueprints of the Mirage through espionage, possibly with the tolerance of some French authorities. The project resulted in two fighters, the Israel Aerospace Industries IAI Nesher and the IAI Kfir. The second employed more powerful American-designed engines, and for a time served as the primary fighter of the IDF's air arm. Both aircraft enjoyed export success, with the Nesher serving in Argentina and the Kfir flying for Colombia, Ecuador, and Sri Lanka. This investment helped drive the development of Israel's aerospace sector, with big implications for the rest of Israel's economy. Heavy state investment in military technological development does not always drive broader innovations in civilian technology. In this case, however, state investment provided a key pillar for the early development of Israel's civilian technology sector. To many, the success of the Kfir suggested that Israel could stand on its own in aerospace technology, eliminating the need to rely on a foreign sponsor. Nevertheless, Israel continued to invest heavily in foreign aircraft. The IDF began acquiring F-4 Phantoms in the late 1960s, and F-15 Eagles in the mid-1970s. The arrival of the latter in Israel inadvertently sparked a political crisis, as the first four aircraft landed after the beginning of the Sabbath. The ensuing controversy eventually brought down the first premiership of Yitzhak Rabin. But many in Israel, still buoyed by the relative success of the Kfir and hopeful about further developing Israel's high-tech sector, believed that the country could aspire to develop its own fighter aircraft. Enter the Lavi. Like its counterparts in both the USSR and the United States, the IDF air arm believed that a high-low mix of fighters best served its needs. This led to the development of the Lavi, a light multi-role fighter that could complement the F-15 Eagles that Israel continued to acquire from the United States. The Lavi filled the niche that the F-16 Viper would eventually come to dominate. It included some systems licensed by the United States, and visually resembled an F-16 with a different wing configuration. But the military technological environment had changed. Developing the Lavi from scratch or virtually from scratch required an enormous state investment for an aircraft that had marginal, if any, advantages over an off-the-shelf F-16. Moreover, the United States took export controls much more seriously than France, and had a much more dangerous toolkit for enforcing compliance. Despite initial optimism about the export prospects of the Lavi, it soon became apparent to Israelis that the United States would not allow the wide export of a fighter that included significant American components. That the Lavi would have competed directly against the F-16 only exacerbated the problem. In August 1987, the Israeli cabinet killed the Lavi, which caused protests from IAI and the workers associated with the project. Nevertheless, a political effort to revive the plane failed, and Israel eventually acquired a large number of F-16s. In its afterlife, however, the Lavi helped kill the export prospects of the F-22 Raptor, out of concern that Israel had shared Lavi and thus F-16 technology with the Chinese, leading to the J-10. The U.S. Congress prohibited any export of the F-22. This decision prevented Israel and several other interested buyers from acquiring the Raptor, and undoubtedly cut short its overall production life. Alternatives. Instead of pursuing its own fighters, Israel has lately preferred to extensively modify the aircraft it buys from the United States. The F-15I Thunder and the F-16I Storm have both received major upgrades to optimize them for Israeli service. Both planes have increased range and improved avionics, enabling the IDF to fight effectively at great distance from its bases. The F-15I, a variant of the F-15E Strike Eagle, is the IAF's most important long-range strike platform. The IAF has already undertaken steps to make the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter more suitable for Israeli service, including advanced software modifications. IAF has continued to see great success, despite the lack of a major fighter project. IAF has thrived on developing and exporting components for domestic as well as export use, including munitions and avionics. IAF has also gone big into the UAV market, with major success both within Israel and abroad. And despite the failure of the Lavi, Israel's high-tech defense sector has done well, with considerable spillover into the civilian economy. Israeli state industrial policy focuses on exactly this goal, supplying investment for high-tech innovation that facilitates both national defense and economic growth. Israel's current aerospace strategy depends on the health of its relationship with the United States. This is true both in terms of the availability of platforms and in ongoing mutual technological development. Fortunately for Israel, there is little reason to believe that this aspect of the U.S.-Israel alliance will decay anytime soon. Concern over the security of the F-22 stopped export of the Raptor, but didn't dent the overall relationship. And even if the unimaginable occurred, and Israel needed to look elsewhere from the United States, the proficiency of Israeli industry in developing components and support systems means that it would not lack long for a partner. Robert Farley, a frequent contributor to The National Interest, is author of the Battleship book. He serves as a senior lecturer at the Patterson School of Diplomacy and International Commerce at the University of Kentucky. His work includes military doctrine, national security and maritime affairs.